Recording in progress. Good evening, y'all. This is Code Platoon, Foxtrot Platoon, evenings and weekends. Week 10, day 2. We're still on database stuff. Today, we'll be talking about designing specifically a blog. What we'll kind of focus on today is, I don't want to call it recursion, but God, that's bright. A table that can have another instance of itself as a field, and how we would utilize that to backtrack through this, and we'll see. But when I say blog, I'm basically talking about something you've probably seen before. I think most social medias work this way. You've got a user and you can make a post. People can comment on that post, and many the comment can be commented on, and then those can be strung out. I don't know what does that. Does Instagram do that? Does Facebook do that? You know what I'm talking about? You can comment on a comment of a post.
Reddit does it.
Reddit does it. That's for darn sure it does. A lot of times you'll just see replies, like replies. That's a little bit easier. That's a little bit easier, as you'll find out today, to query. But it's a design choice. So today, let's jump into it. First things first, we need to use this blog database. So let's open this up, see what it's all about. Blog schema. See the cars database for reference. It was generated by this. If you don't want to do any of that, you can just clone this down and run setup.sh. That seems great. Where we at? Let's clone it down. Let's hop into it. Here we are. Let's run setup.sh. The heck does that do? Oh, no. We're in the database. Well, that's pretty cool. We'll see what this is actually running. So, oops, not that. There we go. Oh, which one's which? This is it. I should have left that in there. So we just ran docker run pgdb password blog database. We slept for 3. I don't love that. And then we docker exec into it. Great, right? We all happy with that? That was easy. I'm not happy with it. I don't want to be in the database. I've complained about this before. Sure, we can, mess with stuff right here, right now, but what if this was a prod database? What if this was our website's actual database? I don't want to be in here. What if I don't know, it's something like, drop tables, whatever, cascade, all that junk. Like, that'd be a bad thing. You can't just rebuild it. So again, for our purposes here in class, we can just do this, and you should feel free to be able to do this, but I'll show you my preferred method. We're gonna run scripts instead. How do we do that? Well, let's shut this bad boy back down. I think we're gonna need to. Docker stop. Oh. Look at that. Nothing running. So I've set this aside for myself here to help out a little bit. And again, this is based off of the car DB database. You can go back to that for reference to kind of see how this was set up, but I kind of want to explain it. So docker build -d blog database period. What is that doing? Well, we're going to build a Docker image. We're going to tag it or name it, if you will, but think of it as a tag. Don't use the word name. Think of the word tag, because name is a different thing. We're going to call it blogdb. This dot right here, that means right here. Where are we at? And where we're at in relation to the script is the level, rather top level of this repository. It's going to go look for a Docker file, and do whatever the Docker file tells us to do. Pretty simple. Pulls down a Postgres image, runs the init.sql using the entry point. There we go. That's fine. We're doing the same thing here. We're just building an image based off of that Docker file. So let's run that. Sweet. No, I don't want help. Does a bunch of cool stuff. Great. Next, this is a slightly different command than what was provided to us in this the setup script here, right? This is just kind of running it at the suggested port, which is basically going to be the port of the container itself. But we're having to point it at this Docker image that we have set up, this running container, and we're hopping into it. What my script here is, I despise trees. Oh no, there we go. Something a little bit different. We're standing up a container, but it's not just the container of the database. We're setting up a container and we're exposing its entry point to localhost. So whereas this script wants to hop into 5432 of the container, well, I'm going to do something slightly different, and I am going to say, hey, 5432, we're going to map that onto 5454 of myself. That's my local host. So you can read my notes here if you really want, but I bet you could probably deduce most of this yourself. Docker run -- help. And you've got all these different commands, which you can understand these arguments a little bit better for. So Docker run -- name, you can probably guess, but if you didn't want to guess, if you wanted to know, where is in? There we go. Name string, assign a name to the container. -- rm. I didn't know about that. I had to go look it up. Automatically remove the container when it exits. Well, this one's going to kind of keep running. We could probably remove that with no issue. -e, set environment variables. That's going to set environment variables within this container. It's how you would pass them in. So this -e, and then whatever follows it is going to be the environment variable. Expose 5432 using local port 5454. Using P. Sorry, I didn't put in the -p, but that's what it is. Oh goodness, that doesn't help, does it? Oh, publish containers port to the host. There we go. And then -d is kind of going to be the entry point, or set a new default entry point, I believe is what it says. Oh, I even wrote it down. Overwrite the default entry point in the image. Now it's going to point to blog db. This is just saying run a container, call it runner. We're going to, oh, sorry. BlogDB is the name of the Docker image we're passing it. Sorry, that's not exposing the database. Database is called something else. Not enough coffee, y'all. So that should start this up, running it on 5432. We can see this. Check it out. Ports, localhost 5454, which is going to point to 5432 using TCP connection of our container. If you don't know what all that means, that's fine. Just keep it in mind. When you see 0.0.0.0, that's localhost, reachable by pretty much anyone connected to the same network. You'll often see 127.0.0.1, but this one means everyone can reach me. This is the port we're providing. This is the port it's connecting to. It's kind of a proxy for this port. Did I run this? Yes. Oh yeah, I did. Next, that's up. It's running. We're just not in it, right? I've got this container up, running, spinning, doing its thing, just sitting there. It's a database. If I want to run commands on it, I can use common PostgreSQL commands. I'm just going to point it where I want it to go. So PSQL, you know what that does. I'm going to give it a host, local host. And by the way, this is not a weird thing to do. None of this is odd. Very often you will run commands on databases you're not even connected to. They may not even be on your local machine. They'll be some other machine. So we're going to say host, does happen to be localhost. We know which port, 5454. Remember, that's the one we want to point at because that points to the container. User Postgres, we decided that. Well, I'm pretty sure that's baked in to our script. The database name is going to be blog, by the way. How did I know that? I had to. So not our Docker file necessarily. What do I have? Oh my gosh, I put a repo in a repo. That's why it's all jacked up. Ah, man. So notice the Docker file is running init.sql. Well, let's see what's inside of there. Connect blog. There it is. That's the database. Create database blog. -f is going to be script.sql. Is there a man page for SQL? Oh, there is. So there's a help page and a man page, manual page. And you can kind of see what all these commands are doing. I didn't make these up. I don't keep these in my head. I go looking for stuff. You can even grep, look for things. Oh, is it let me? Oh, I get a man grep. That's different. But you could help grep the help command. If it's there. Oh, goodness gracious. All right, we're getting a little too nonsense. Do you know what grep is? Have we talked about grep before? I think we have. It's a global regular expression. It's just, I just took the help output. This is a pipe saying, hey, feed this to here. I used grep, and then I looked for -f. I had to escape this dash. And here's all the different things that came out of it. Out of that whole help command, it filtered it down. These are what the lines that have a -f in them. And that's the one I'm looking for. File name, execute commands from file, then exits. Exactly what I want. All that to say, don't forget you've got the manual and you've got --help. One or the other, 99.9% of the time, any good script writer is going to hand in or at least have these kind of outputs available to you. They can pass in. They can create manual entries for this. They can create help entries for their scripts. Outside of this realm of this class, but I just like to show you all how to help each other or help yourselves. Man, I opened that within there. What is that going to do? Oh, that's fine. All right. Back to class. That's all set up and we understand what's going on. We should be able to run scripts with this command. We'll test that here in just a second. We're going to keep things simple. 3 entities: blog user, post, comment. Blog user, post, comment. So a blog user can create posts. They can also comment on things. And as we talked about, well, we mentioned it, and we're going to cover it down here. A comment can be commented on. So a post should be made by a single blog user. You can't have 2 people making a post. It's a unique post. And a blog user can make many posts. It would suck if you could only make 1 post on a social media website and then you're done. I mean, that's kind of MySpace work, right? Or could you comment? You just had your own web page, right? That was it. I don't remember. A comment should be made by a single blog user. A blog user can make many comments. This is also one-to-many. That makes sense. You should be able to comment on as much junk as you want to. A comment can belong to a single post. Must belong to a single post. And a comment can have many comments, as we said. That's one too many. A comment can belong to a single comment, and a comment can have many comments. One too many. Yeah, okay. So a comment can originate from a post, or a comment can originate from a comment. That's important, and we'll show you here in a second when we build it. Yeah, recursive is what we call that. But here's the really bright template of what this looks like. Here's the post. There's the ID. That's the key, the primary key. User ID. Yeah, it's got its own thing here. But that's because why these are two separate things is because generally you would have, when we do to create these, and you'll see when we do this in Django especially, a user will have a user like table. Anything else you want to tack onto there, you typically have to create a separate table and join those together by their IDs. So this is kind of linking it to a table we don't see here, which is the user ID for the user. Oh wait, hold up. I'm back. I'm getting this confused with this. Let's take a step back from there. Why are we zoomed in? I was thinking we were a blog user. Back up, Jordan. Oh, the thing is, I got really confused with this because I was trying to show y'all how to do it in Python when I was prepping for this last week. And man, writing this using Peewee, using its exporter, jacks it all up. So we're not going to do that. But it got me all kind of twisted up thinking there were different hidden tables. Let's start with blog user. You got ID, name, email. Makes sense. Name, varchar, email, varchar, ID, primary key. If they want to make a post, if they want to make a comment, all we need is their ID, because a post or a comment are going to have a user ID. That's where that comes from. That's where that comes from. Posts, title text. Comments, just text. Evidently, the post is going to have a title in this blog. The ID of the post is going to be the post ID for any comments. But a comment that is a comment of a comment isn't necessarily going to, you're not going to be able to like point it directly at its origin post. It's only associating itself with the comment. So its ID could be a post ID. It could be this parent comment ID, which is going to get from the comment above it. Is this how everyone does it? Is this the best way to do this? I don't know. This is a way to do it for sure. I think it makes the querying very difficult when we run these queries at the bottom. But you don't always have a choice with databases. Sometimes you got the database you got, and you've got to learn to work with it. You can't perform migrations and change the schemas of databases if it really needed to be done. But if you're working at a medical firm or something, and you've got millions of customers, it's not a small thing to say, hey, it would sure be cool if we could add a list of all the customers and just put a count and throw that on there. Can we just get that done? It's like, no, you're not touching that database. You don't touch the database. You just read from it. All right. So here is one way to implement this in SQL. And this is how we're going to do it. As we mentioned, the blog user, nothing crazy, nothing surprising here. Primary key, varchar, up to 255, up to 100, whatever, it's fine. This one's not null. Sure, you would sure think the name would be not null, but whatever. That's fine. Create table post. As we mentioned, it's going to have its own primary key. It's got to have a user ID. It's an integer that references blog user ID. Makes sense. Title, text. Varchar 255, not null, text. Evidently, we can have a post that does not have any text if you don't want to. It could just be a title. Maybe you attach a picture to it. I don't know. It's not nullable, but this is a text field. There's no limit to the amount of text that can go in there. Well, there is a limit, but it's pretty big. Create table, comment. This one's a little weird looking. Have we seen checks before? I don't think so. Let's ignore that. Got an ID, that makes sense. Got a text, that makes sense. User ID, integer references blog user ID. Post ID, integer references post ID. Parent comment ID, integer references comment ID. Well, one, this is not nullable, but there are references. We're going to leave user ID nullable, evidently, but we're not going to leave these nullable. This is a check. Post ID is not null, and parent ID is null. Does that make sense? Either it's got to have a post ID and not a parent comment ID, or it can't have a post ID, but it does have a parent comment ID. This is just kind of protecting our database via the models saying, hey, you shouldn't have a comment and a post ID. You can only originate from one place. You're going to jack everything up otherwise. That's all that's doing. This should prevent us from injecting bad data. But there are much better ways than doing this on the SQL end. And we'll learn that in Django for sure. It's called validations, where you'll run kind of like unit tests. Not really unit tests, but kind of like you look at an entry and you compare it to a few rules. You're going to say something like, hey, user, the title needs to be less than 255, and it can't have any of these naughty words in it. And you'll run that on the string. And if it's good, they'll say, okay, you're good by me. And just kind of run a few checks to make sure data doesn't get in the database like that. And that's not really something that we would do. We definitely don't. We want to have validations in on our back end that'll prevent bad data from getting into the database. Because once you bork the database, your options are limited. Cleaning it up is not easy. Queries. So these are the queries that we're going to run, and I'll show you how we're going to run them. Not on the database directly. We're slapping the script. I already did. So recall, I was talking about the command we need to run to use this. Look at that. So we just ran a pSQL command, PostgreSQL, using the localhost 5454, Postgres database, the blog database, using the script. We took a count and a blog username from blog user. We joined it on the post. Blog username from blog user. We just want this. And we're associating it to a post. And we're counting. I don't think we're really doing much with that, but on post user ID is equal to blog user ID. That makes sense. This should just get us a post of, we're just joining the blog user to the posts that belong to them, because a post user ID and a blog user ID should be the same, right? We're going to group it on blog user.name, order by count, ascending, limit 1. Evidently, Jimbo's got 7 posts. I don't really know. Oh, ordering it. I don't think we really need to limit it by 1, but that's saying, hey, if there were multiple users with the same ID matching this same post, I don't really know how that would kind of work out, but yeah, Jimbo 7, we're limiting it to 1. Cool. What are the top 3 comments with the most comments? All right, let's break this down a little bit and run it. Oh, I didn't run. Am I running the wrong script? Yeah. So select count. So I want to see a count of whatever's going to happen down here. and I want c1.id as comment ID from comment c1. Overcomplicating this a little bit, we could break it down if we wanted to. Oh, wait. Right? That's the same thing. Do we agree? Lines 1 and 2 are the same? Does anyone disagree? Did I make a mistake? Um, we're going to join it on comment 2. How do we know what comment 2 is? Well, join comment 2 on comment 1 ID, basically, where comment 2.parent comment ID is equal to this. So we're saying whatever comment has a parent comment ID equivalent to this first comment, we're going to call that comment 2. Then we're going to group it by this first ID like we did in the last example. Order by the count. We want them highest to lowest, and descend, and we'll limit 3. So here's our count. Here's our comment ID. So in this first example, we got the user with the most posts. In this example, we got the top 3 comments with the most comments, because we were able to recursively, this is how recursion, this is what recursion is kind of buying us into. This is pretty concise, if not necessarily easy to understand. I want a comment of a comment using the first comment and comparing it to the second comment. So it's kind of a situational variable setting, right? Comment is always going to be, or comment 1 is always going to be basically this this first comment that we get, or whatever comment we're referring to. But comment 2 is only decided based off of whatever comment we're looking at, if it shares a parent ID with the next comment. Group by ID, order by the count, limit 3, and we got that. Do y'all see how this works? Because it's about to suck. Yeah, this is insane to me. I know it's only a few lines, but talking it out really sucks. And I'm not someone who works in SQL every day. You might be thinking, Jordan, how would you handle this then? Well, y'all, probably wouldn't build it this way. And secondly, we use ORMs. I would do this in Python. I either use SQL Alchemy or Pee-wee. And I break it down quite a bit. We're going to break it down as best we can to try and simplify it so that you don't think this is crazy and, you know, this is a normal thing to do. Let's get lost together while I'm recording myself. All right. What is our stupid goal here? Who wrote the comment with the most comments? If I had the advantage of building a database and knowing at some point we would want a feature that gave us the most comments, maybe I'd have a running tally on every single user, just listing their number of comments of their comments, or on the comment either the most comments, whatever. You would just tally that up. You could do that, but we're not. We're going to do this all in one go. Some of this looks familiar because we just did it up here, but we're going to nest the crap out of it. Oh, why are you complaining? That's fine. So let's make sure this actually runs. Seems right, but we don't really know. Well, we know the most posts, but we don't really know who wrote the comment with the most comments. This is a whole new search. Where do you even start here? Does anyone want to take a stab and just read this line by line? Don't worry if I said it's hard. I'm not good at SQL. Does anyone feel confident? Whoever gets it right, I'll take your next test for you. Cowards. I don't really know where to start on this. I'll show you how I kind of, this is how my brain works. This might be helpful to y'all. This might not be helpful to y'all. Feel free to stop me and ask me to explain. So we want the user who has the comment with the most comments. We then know top level, these are the things we want. We want that blog user dot name from blog user. Makes sense to me. Let's go ahead and just turn that off for a second. We know we want the most comments, whatever that is, whatever comment has the most comments, that's something we need eventually. That max comment, whatever its user ID is, that should equal a blog user.id, right? Whatever the comment with the most comments is, ignoring all this, it's all pseudocode at this point. Whatever the max comment is, that comment with the most, its user ID should line up to a blog user ID, and that will be the owner of that comment, right? That makes sense to me. Let's jump it down for a second and line those out. So that the outside sort of makes sense. Let's look at this join. We have to join tables to get those, or to get that information, right? Because, oh goodness. We need a list. Basically, we have to reference comments off of comments. But pointing that oh my gosh, hold on, slow down. We got to run two different queries here, actually like three different queries. And you've seen us break it up. We know how to get the user of a blog post. Well, this would be the same way for getting a comment. If we replace that with a comment, this would get us the user with the most comments. So we've already done that. Now we're just looking for the post. Or sorry, now we're just looking for the comment. So that's what this is. Notice here, select star from comment. Oh wait, no, zone in. Oh, that's right. We want a comment ultimately, and we're going to call that max comment, which I got rid of a little early. Whatever this comment we find is, it's going to be the max comment. How are we going to determine that? We're going to join where a comment ID is equal to the max comment ID. So that makes sense. Now we know where max comment comes from, or at least what we're going to try and reference it to. Please don't do that. Get rid of all that. All right. This is like a smaller join in here. So we're going to join. Oh, goodness gracious. Where comment ID is equal to select max comment ID. Now that's being defined here. Let's look at this. Select count C1.id. That looks just like this from before, albeit it's a comment, not a post. Join comment 2 on comment 1, where comment 2's parent comment ID is the same. All this we've done before, and we all agreed that we understood how that worked, right? Here, this is pretty much the same thing. We're going to get a list of comments, or rather, we're going to get the top 3 comments that have the highest number. Actually, we're just limiting it to 1 this time, though. You see, we got the top 3. We just changed this to limit 1. So we're only going to get probably this first one. Does that work? Hey, look at that. So we've got a max comment ID and we've got a count. If I could output this somewhere, right? I would break this up like so. We already know this max comment ID. We've established it right here. If SQL worked that way, I could just say select blog user, oh wait, dot name from blog user, where right? That would work. Or sorry, to make it more codified. That would be cool if that worked, right? We've already set this variable here, max comment ID. All we really need to do is run another query, but that's not really how SQL works. It's not going to keep track of variables throughout completely separated queries. So we need to figure out how to run this query now. And that's where the pain kind of gets. So let's expand this back out. Select star from comment, where comment ID is equal to this, selects that max comment ID. I think we should be able to run all this, maybe. See what that gives us. Cool beans. So selecting star from comments, all the comments, where the comment ID is equal to max comment ID. Ignore all this. We already know all that. We know if we run all this code here, we're going to get a single max comment ID. What is this as X? Well, that's just how SQL works. Error, subquery and from must have an alias. That's why it's X. This could probably be a foo bar, right? As long as it's there, it's not being used. That should work. Look at that, still works. Oftentimes in Python, we'll do something like that. When we have a variable that we need, but we're not really going to ever reference it. So cool. We've expanded from recursively grabbing our max comment. We've set it to a variable, max comment ID. Great. So we got the max comment ID. Now we just got to reference it to this blog user query. So let's open it up from there. Let's join this. Saying, okay. This comment that matches this max comment ID is going to be our max comment. That makes sense to me. And we're going to join that on blog user ID, where the max comment user ID is equal to the blog user ID. That's pretty much just this. Let's toss in the rest, which is kind of longhand this. It still works. You may not be able to trace that line by line and make it all make sense to you, but I'm at least showing you how we can break this down and understand it without just trying to run it all at once and understand top to bottom. Let me remind you, somebody is being mean and giving us a really complex query here to showcase how to use recursion and referencing to get some answers to queries that aren't exactly obvious with this schema. That's the purpose, not to make someone look smart. Any questions? If you can't follow this super well, or you don't feel confident that you could replicate that, don't worry, that's okay. I want you to learn this, and I want you to learn this. Any questions? Anyone want to go over that themselves? Anybody want to see me do it again? Anyone want to see a TA do it? What do we got in here? Ooh. All right. I am going to end the video there then.